Okay, we are covering section 3.2 today. Bar graphs. We should be on page 108. Page 108. Page 108 in our books. Book and a piece of paper and title your notes. Alright, so today we are talking about how to make a bar graph. How to make a bar graph. So we, first of all, have to start off let's make it like that. Go ahead and draw a box on your paper, please. A decent size. Okay. Now with a bar graph, the first thing you need to know is that you need to have horizontal grid lines. Let's go ahead and actually read the word problem, and then we'll figure out what our scale needs to be on our bar graph. It says, and I'm on the top of page 108, it says, in the 1990s, 4 space shuttles were used for various missions. The number of missions taken by each shuttle during this time are shown in the table. All right, and you'll see the table right here on the slide. Okay, so each shuttle and how many missions they ran. How can you represent the data visually? Well, we can represent it in a bar graph. So the first thing we need to figure out is what numbers am I going to put on the left side of my graph or the vertical column, the number of missions, okay? Well, the lowest number is 13, the highest number is 18. Since these numbers are pretty close to 0, I am going to start my values down here at 0. Okay, now if these numbers were extremely high, like starting at 100, I wouldn't start at 0 because half of my bar graph, half down would be blank, okay? But they are pretty close to 0, so we're going to start at 0. And we'll go ahead and increase them by increments of 4. Now, on your test or your quiz, there's not going to be like one increment that's correct. If you're close, then that would be okay. But we don't want to go by 2s because that'll clutter our grid. We don't want to go by 10s because then there's too much of a gap between the values. So we're going to go by 4s. 0, 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. Okay? And now we're going to draw the horizontal grid lines. This is important. You want it about midway through the number. Okay, so you see how it's clearly connected. Each grid line is clearly connected to the number. So that's important. Okay, you want to make sure that you don't say, for example, on number 12, you don't draw the grid line way up here. No, it needs to line up directly with the 12. All right, and you see mine's not perfect, so yours doesn't have to be either, okay, as long as it's clear. All right, so now I have my horizontal grid lines for my bar graph. Now, on the bottom, all right, and I'm going to have to abbreviate because I don't have much room, but on the bottom, on the horizontal column, I'm actually going to label each ship now. Yes, Justin? Quickly. All right, so I have the Atlantis. That's one of my shuttles. All right. I don't have enough room to write the whole thing, but go ahead and write Atlantis. And then we have the Columbia. And then we have the Discovery. And then we have the Endeavor. Okay? All right, now with a bar graph, I'm going to look at the value in the table, and I'm going to graph this. I'm going to plot my bar that matches the value, okay, the number of missions. So how many missions did the Atlantis go on? How many? It was 16, so I'm going to draw my bar all the way up to the 16. And notice that my bar is directly above the Atlantis or the shuttle. Okay, so it's very clear that I'm graphing the number of missions that the Atlantis went on. Okay? Now with a bar graph, there needs to be space between each column. So I'm not going to draw them right on top of each other. I'm going to leave a little bit of space between each column. Now the Columbia, how many missions did the Columbia go on? 18. So I know that's going to be about halfway between the 16 and the 20. Okay, so not all the way to the 20, just about halfway. All right, notice right off the bat, okay, mine's not perfect. One of the bars is a little bit wider than the other. That's okay. All right, I'm not going to be that picky whenever I'm grading yours. The Discovery, how many did the Discovery go on? 17. Okay, so it's going to be just under the Columbia. It's important that you're consistent, so don't make the Discovery a little bit taller than the Columbia because they're one fewer. Okay, but it's just above the 16. And then last but not least, the Endeavor. And how many missions did the Endeavor go on? 13. Okay, so just above the 12. And then shaded in. Okay, so a couple things that are important for the bar graph. The first one is that you have to figure out the scale. Okay, you have to choose the scale. And how do we choose the scale? We use the numbers that are given to us in the table, and we say, okay, you know, I don't have a huge range. Remember range from 3.1? We have a huge range of numbers. None of them go above 20, so I'm just going to go 0 to 20. If you went by 3s, that would be okay. If you went by 5s, I'd probably accept that. But anything bigger than that leaves too much of a gap between the numbers, okay? So you don't want to go too big. All right, does anybody have any questions on example 1? Any questions at all? Pretty straightforward? We all clear? Okay, now let's move on to example 2. In example 2, we're making a double bar graph. Okay, so now I have 3 different categories. Okay, let's go ahead and read the example. I'm on the top of page 109. Top of page 109. It says, the table shows the sports participation of students at school. To make a double bar graph of the data, start by drawing bars for the boys, then draw the bars for the girls. Okay, so again, we're going to leave myself a little bit of room. Okay, we are going to draw our box. All right, and the first thing we need to figure out is the scale, okay? Well, my horizontal column, okay, this is going to be my students over here. My students. So the students, okay, well, the lowest number is 11 and the highest number is 26. So I need to go a little bit above that. I'm going to go by 5s, okay? Again, if you do 4s or you do 6s, either one of those would be okay, but you don't want to go much smaller or larger than that. If you go smaller, 2 to 30, okay, that's going to be a really big bar graph. So you want to use the values that they give you up here in this table to kind of figure out what your scale needs to be. All right, so our scale, we're going to go by 5s. All right, now we always start at 0. That's always going to be our first. Okay, and you'll notice this in your book as well. You don't have to necessarily number every horizontal line. Okay, so we're going to go 5, 10, okay, but we're not going to necessarily, oh, that didn't show up for some reason. Oh, come on, don't do this. All right, so let's go ahead and number the rest of it. Okay, now if I was numbering the 5s in between, it would be kind of cluttered. So as long as I'm doing every other one, I know that the one in the middle, okay, is going to stand for the 5 in between. So I go 20, 25, 30, and I won't have to go much higher, but we'll just fill it in the rest. Okay? And that goes 20, 25, 30, and 40. Okay? Justin. The first category is soccer. All right, the first category is soccer. And if you have colored pencils or colored pens, it would probably be a good idea to use those for this one. It just shows the difference. Now, another very important part of this is to have a key. Okay, so on your homework tonight, you need to have a key. I'm going to have the green is going to be for boys, and the purple is going to be the girls. Okay, it's important that you have a key so that whoever's reading your graph knows which one stands for which category. Okay, so for the I'm going to go ahead and plot the boys first across all of the categories. How many boys played soccer? How many boys played soccer? About 26. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of shade that in. All right, now I have basketball, and I'm just going to abbreviate it. And then I have track. And then I have volleyball, which I will also abbreviate, volleyball. Okay, so my categories are on the bottom. So for soccer, 26 boys played. How many boys played basketball? 17. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that just above that 15 mark for basketball. How many boys played track? 25. So notice that it's right above each category. That's important. Okay? And then how many boys played volleyball? 11. So it's just above the 10. All right, now let's go back and let's do the girls. How many girls played soccer? 20. Okay? And now with the double bar graph, with these subcategories, they need to be touching, okay? So notice that my bars are touching each other. But there is space between each category, okay? So make sure that you do that on your homework tonight. For basketball, 21 girls played basketball. So again, I'm connecting it. So it's going to be just above the 20. Okay? For track, 25 girls played track, or did track, ran track. And then for volleyball, 15 girls played volleyball. Okay? All right, so for the double bar graph, again, you have to choose your scale. And you choose your scale based on the numbers that it gives you in the chart. Then you need a key. So make sure that you have your key on your homework tonight on the double bar graph. Make sure you have that. And then make sure that your columns, that you have them close to each other. And if you understand that, that is everything you need to know for today's lesson. We'll do the rest of 3.2 tomorrow.